This video will review Chapter 16. The first exercise that I will review is actually not one that's assigned to you, but it's just to give you some extra practice to see how to compute the equivalent units of production. And then I will review the alternate for exercise 16.6 and also 16.14. So again, these are to help you with your Chapter 16 homework. You will recall that in Chapter 16, we're still looking at a manufacturing system, but now we're looking at producing the same type of item in a mass production. So you can imagine if you're making pencils or nails, you're not going to keep track of the cost of each pencil or each nail separately. So this is called process operations, and we use a system called process manufacturing. And so we are going to look at something called equivalent units of production, which means that with the resources that they had for the period, they would have been able to complete X number of fully completed units. Also, we will look at direct materials and then conversion. So you learned about conversion cost in Chapter 15. Remember that conversion is equal to direct labor and factory overhead. So in this example, we have beginning work in process. So they started with some units. They started in the current period, 360,000. They completed and transferred out 400,000, and they still have some left in ending inventory. And then they want us to compute the equivalent units of production under three separate assumptions. So first is this physical flow reconciliation. So you'll notice that this number, 450,000, is equal to this number. So in this section, we have our beginning inventory plus the units that were started in the current period, and that equals the total units to account for. Then on this section, we're looking at the completed and transferred out. So the 400,000 plus the ending inventory also equals 450. So this shows the physical flow reconciliation. So you can just plug these numbers in, and you should be able to compute this number for your homework and exam. So this scenario is where all materials are added at the beginning of the process. So this means every unit that they started working on or had already been working on, so they were in beginning inventory, every single unit has 100% of the materials added. So we're looking at the units completed and transferred out and the ending inventory units. So when we do these computations, we're looking at these bottom two items. Then we're going to multiply by the percent complete that they are for materials. And then we'll just add it together. So clearly the equivalent units of production is equal to 450,000 because all the materials have been added to all the products. In this scenario, it says beginning inventory is 20% complete, ending inventory is 70% complete. We are using something called the weighted average method, which means we're only looking at the ending inventory information. Anywhere you see something where it talks about the beginning percentage complete, that is for a method we aren't covering. That's called the FIFO method. So the first in, first out method does take into account the beginning inventory, but for your purposes, you will not. So again, we've listed the same thing here: units completed and transferred out, ending inventory, and now we're going to multiply by 100% for the units completed because they are fully complete, but the ending inventory is only going to be multiplied by 70%. So then we're going to add 400 plus 35 to get 435 equivalent units for materials. The last scenario says beginning inventory is 80%. Again, we're going to ignore that. Ending inventory is 60%. So units completed and transferred out, again, they're always 100%. The ending work in process for this example is 60%, so 50,000 times 0.6. So now our equivalent units under this scenario is 430,000. Now we're looking at the alternate for exercise 16.6, and we have beginning inventory, units started, units completed, and ending inventory. So again, we're going to ignore the percentage complete for the beginning inventory. Then we have cost. So we're going to look at a little more comprehensive example here. So first thing, we want to calculate the equivalent units of production. So we're going to do that reconciliation. So beginning units in beginning inventory plus units started, total units to account for, then we do the other side. So we already know the total units accounted for are equal because these two numbers will always be equal. The ending work in process is 10,000 and the units completed and transferred out 230. So that proves the unit reconciliation. Now we're looking at the equivalent units of production. Again, anything that's transferred out is going to have 100%. Conversion and direct materials because they are fully completed and they're transferred out. So now we're looking at the ending units. So it says direct materials are 80% and conversion are 40% complete. So we're just going to multiply 10,000 times 80% and 10,000 times 40%, and then we're going to add. So notice that the equivalent units of production for materials is 238, but the equivalent units for conversion is 234. So normally you will have different numbers for these two calculations. Now we want to compute a cost per equivalent unit. So we're going to transfer a cost here. So we had beginning cost of 70,000 and cost added during this period for materials of 1,120,000. So we get total cost. We will divide by the materials equivalent units to get the cost per unit. Same for conversion. We had beginning inventory cost of 32,000. We had cost added during the current period of 1.84. So add those together and divide by the 234 equivalent units for conversion to get $8. So then we do a cost assignment and reconciliation. So units transferred out. So we had units transferred out of 230 for both materials and conversion. And then we multiply by the cost per equivalent unit. So $5 and $8, multiply that out and then add it together. So we've now accounted for $2.99 million of the total cost. Now we do the ending inventory. So when we've got ending inventory, we're looking at these numbers. Materials 8,000, conversion 4. Multiplied by the cost per unit, so 5 and 8, add them together. That's total cost of the ending inventory. Add that to the total cost transferred out to get the total cost assigned of $3,062,000. And then if you look back here, you'll see that that is correct. So we had a total cost of $3,062,000, and it's split between these units that are fully complete and transferred out and these units that are left in ending inventory. So here's one more example. Here again, we're going to ignore this percent complete, but go through the same steps. So physical flow, units to account for, beginning inventory, units started, get the total, units accounted for will also equal the 54. Completed and transferred out, 46 plus 8, ending inventory, so we get 54. Now we're going to do the equivalent units. So units completed and transferred out, we had 46,000. Ending inventory, we had 8. And then we're going to multiply by the percentage. So the ones that are fully complete get 100%. Then we're looking at the ending inventory. So this is ending inventory for materials, 100%. And for conversion, it's 30%. Multiply these out. So materials equivalent units of production are 54. Conversion equivalent units are 48.4. Now we're going to get a cost per unit. So we're going to add our cost, direct materials, beginning inventory plus current cost. Do the same thing that we did in the previous one. Get our total cost, divide by equivalent units, 54,000 and 48.4 to get a unit cost. The last step is cost assignment and reconciliation. So the units transferred out for materials and conversion, pick up the numbers here and pick up the unit costs, 5 and 320, multiply. And then ending inventory, we have 8 for materials and 2,400 for conversion, and multiply by the 5 and 320. Add them together. We get 424,880, and then we can verify we had total cost of 424,880. So that means we did this correctly. This concludes the alternate exercises to help you with your Chapter 16 homework. Make sure to use the exercise template in Blackboard.